Hey makers, welcome to another Fimbel From Home. And this month, we're going to be laser cutting pumpkins. To get us started, you will only need paper and a Sharpie. I'll show you how it works. So here we have our workstation, and we're gonna work with a sheet of white paper. So make sure you have a sheet of white paper to get started, and we'll also need a dark marker of some sort of, in this case, I'm gonna use a Sharpie. And I'm just gonna go ahead and freehand this of the shape that I want for my pumpkin. So what I'm gonna go look for, I'm gonna do a classic shape. Just gonna go ahead and draw something that comes to mind. Sweet. All right, so that's my shape. I'm gonna say, let's say I wanted to cut this out on my laser cutter. You can obviously spend more time with this than I did, but what you're going for is a simple outline. You wanna make sure that your lines are thick. So I might go ahead, I'm gonna go over these and make sure that they're pretty thick, and I'll take a moment to do that now. So the thing with the Sharpie is that my lines are already pretty thick, but it doesn't hurt to go over them again a second time just in case to make sure that I get the details that I want. All right, sweet. So now I have a rough shape of a drawing that I want to have go onto my pumpkin. So with that, now we're gonna take our drawing and we're gonna take a picture of it in a well-lit space. I recommend heading outside. All right, so here we are. It's a nice, beautiful day in Fimbel, nice and bright. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my artwork and place it down onto the pavement just like that. The goal is that I don't have any shadows, and I'm gonna take a picture so that it completely fills the entire screen just like that. No background other than the white paper and the black is visible. Now that we've taken a picture of our image, we are now going to upload it into Adobe Illustrator and send it to the laser cutter. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take the photo of the drawing we drew, and we're now going to set it up so it can be cut out on our laser cutter. So to start, we're going to open up Adobe Illustrator. Then we'll go to Open. We'll locate that picture we took, and we'll click Open. So in my case, my image is huge, so I can go ahead and make this smaller. So a couple shortcuts to get us started is zoom in and out. So on a Mac, Command minus allows me to zoom out, and Command plus allows me to zoom in. And on a PC, it is Control minus to zoom out, and Control plus to zoom in. Another handy navigation tool is if you hit the spacebar and you look at our cursor, you'll notice that our cursor turns into a hand. And when I left click down and drag, you will see I'm able to move around my work, like so. So in order to make this smaller, we'll start off by going up to the top corner, any corner that we like, and you'll see that I have this kind of slanted arrows. So what I can do is I can click on that slanted arrow, I can hit the shift key so that it stays in one place, and I can bring it down. If I don't hit the shift key, it'll allow it to just scale however it likes, but I want to keep the dimensions of my work, so I'm going to hit shift and I'm going to scale it down. And then I'll click and drag that back onto my white artboard. So to rotate this so that it's not sideways, if I go again around my artwork on the corners, so hovering not on it, but hovering aside, you'll see that I get this turning. I'm again gonna click on shift and turn that, and I'll be able to get it the direction that I want. So I'll zoom back in so I can see my work front full on. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take my image and I'm gonna turn this drawing of a black line, and I'm actually going to turn that into a path that we want to cut. And in order for me to do this, I have to image trace this image. And so to image trace, I go to Windows, we'll go down to Image Trace, we'll click on Image Trace, and here is what our image trace settings look like. If you don't see this whole thing pull up, that's okay. You probably don't have your advanced selected, so this is what yours might look. Go ahead and hit that advanced, and that'll add in additional tools, which we'll talk about in a second. So the first thing we want to do before we get started is we'll hit trace so that we can see our work being edited. We'll hit trace and hit OK. And now what that does is that allows for that background, essentially the whole thing just became white and black. And our image, if I pull this off to the side here, is now has a solid white background with our solid black shape, which is what we want. So if you didn't get the image you wanted perfectly, or if it changed in some way, we can actually use the settings, so threshold, path, corners, or noise, to help edit that work a little bit more. So on the threshold, less threshold will mean more white in our work. More threshold will mean more black in our work. So you can mess with those. I liked what I had before, so I'm gonna go back to being roughly in the middle. Paths means adding a little bit more curves. So if we'll zoom in to see if you see our difference. So if I go to high paths, might see a couple of these little points pop up, and lower paths cause those to kind of straighten out a little bit more. Corners is what it sounds like. I could have less corners, have things kind of like round out at the edges, or I can have more corners to have things be like sharper. Because I have these teeth, I'm going to keep those sharper corners. And then noise essentially means that if I have small little pixels or anything like that in my work, I can either add them, leave them, or I can say remove them. The last thing I want to make sure that I do once I'm happy with the way this looks is I want to hit this ignore white button. This is important to do. It makes your life a lot easier, so make sure before moving on, you click on this ignore white. And what that will do is it'll get rid of that white background that we have outside that work that you may not see because your image is on the white artboard. But if you move it to the side, you'll notice that there is that white background, and you do want to make sure that you remove it. Okay, so now we have a cleaned up work. The next thing we want to do is we need to expand this. So we have our image trace, and now we need to expand. So to expand, we'll go to Object, and we'll go down to Expand, and we'll hit OK. And you'll see that it expanded because the whole thing kind of went only to only the black image that we have, which is what we want. You'll also see if we zoom in that there's a blue outline that is now highlighting the path that we want. So this is now turned into a path, this blue line. And if I hit Command, you can see the points and width which make up these paths and define how the path is curved. Okay, so what we want to do here is essentially, you can see that there's a blue path on top and there's a blue path on the bottom. This whole thing, this mouth in this case, is actually its own shape. And the shape has a fill of black, and the stroke outline is transparent, so there's none color. And so what I want to do is I actually want the stroke to have a black color, and I want the fill, the inside color, to be transparent. So I'll go ahead and flip these. And now the inside fill is going to be transparent, and the stroke is going to be black, like we see here. And now on my image, I have 2 lines for the mouth and 2 lines for the eyes. And I really only want 1 line for each of these shapes. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to need to delete the extras. So to delete them, I first need to ungroup them because they're all connected. So I usually have to do this a couple times, and as I'll demonstrate. So we'll click on Ungroup. I'll click off of my work, click back on, I'll ungroup again, click off my work, and then click back on. And now you'll see that my shapes, my mouth and eyes, are now separated. So now what I want to do is I want to now delete the extra lines in my eye, but those two are still together. So I have to do one more step. I have to right click and say release compound path. Now those two are separated. And I can go ahead and just pick which one I want to keep and which one I want to delete. So I'll select the outside one, and I'm going to go ahead and hit delete. And I'll do the same for my other objects. I'll right click, I'll select, right click, release compound path, and delete the extra. Select my work, right click, release compound path, and I'll delete an extra. Perfect. Once I have the image that I like and I'm happy with this, I now have to do one last step. This image right here is set up so that it can be engraved, and I need to set this up so that it's going to be cut out. In order for this to be cut out, I need to make the stroke size, so the width of these strokes, so tiny that the laser cutter is going to say, that's too small, you must be asking me to cut that out for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the size by selecting our entire image, and we select our entire image by clicking on one side and dragging down. And we'll go to Windows, Stroke, and we'll change that stroke to be 0.025. Anything that's 0.025 or smaller will cut out, and anything larger than that will engrave. So it may be hard to see on the video, but I do still have my shape there. It's just the stroke is super, super tiny, but this is what we are looking for. So once I'm done with that, I can go ahead and save this, and I can send this over. So to save this, we'll go to File, Save As. You're gonna save it as an AI file. Make sure to have your name somewhere in the file so we know it's yours, and save it to your desktop so you can find it more easily. Once you have your file completed, email your image of your file and your Adobe Illustrator file to fimbellab@mountholyoke.edu, and we'll laser cut your design onto a pumpkin. And there we have it. On October 28th, we'll be laser cutting a number of pumpkins. So if you want your design to be one of them, submit your drawings between October 23rd and October 27th, and yours can end up on a pumpkin. If you need any help with your files, we'll be having help sessions on October 26th and October 27th. So take a look at that, or feel free to email us at fimbellab@mountholyoke.edu.